He loves to laugh and doesn't live without humor, which he considers key to live a good life. He reads 45 novels on average every year, but he never reads professional books. One could say that his preferred book is the book of life. Stephen, thank you for being here after this short introduction and for accepting this challenge to be the first speaker on Junior Achievement Portugal Friday Talks. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, first, I think you mentioned chocolate and beer, but you should put it in plural because we have about 3,000 different beers with a big S, right? Of which 1,500 you can buy in the supermarket. So it's not about beer. It's really a culture. Like in Portugal, they would drink a wine and they go to a bar and have one or two, three different wines. We go to a pub and have one or two, three different beers just for the taste. It's really a different culture. Probably when you travel, you know that diamonds is a specialty of Belgium as well. So that's something that everybody can come and get here. And of course, the tomate crevette with the little shrimps and our restaurants are known all over Europe to be exquisite. I would say, you know the paintings of Braekeveldt? The parties that they give and the food and the drinking. Belgians are part of the Burgundian Empire, so Burgundy is the way like to live, very hardworking, very dedicated in work, but when it comes to party, they really know how to party, to eat, to drink beer. This Bruegel, this painting say it all. This is actually Belgium at its best, is its party and work. You will always see in the paintings of Bruegel some festivities going on, and on the fields you see the people hard working, right? Those two is very typical.
Very balanced, very balanced.
Very balanced, until they have too much beers, then it's not so balanced. Even today I was writing emails on this matter because it is in the education that lays the basics of the questioning of yourself and of being able to question the right purposes and the right issues, and then you normally come to a conclusion that you don't have the luxury not to do anything. Because all these elements go to the purpose of life. And when you go into educational and make these people also have experiences of what others have and have them to learn, that's also the reason why I read so many books. It's exactly to reflect upon things. And the more you have reflection, the more you have education, the more you have knowledge, the more you know you don't know, but the more you know that there is a certain path towards purpose in life, and that's what everybody is looking for. And the younger you can have this hunger of motivate people to learn all kinds of elements, the more you have a reflection and balanced ideas to make your life. I don't know if I was clear, but that's why it's so important, these kind of discussions. I do not see any reflection nowadays, or not a lot. What I do see is a lot of reflection on COVID, on, oh my God, we're already staying 2 months in, we have to be 2 months at home already. It's like panic. It's like, and we have a lot of articles who go about how will we do this? How will we go back to work? I haven't seen any articles or reflection on the matter of what are we still going to do about what really matters, global warming. What are we going to do to change the mindset of companies in how the way they have to work? Is our way of working and capitalistic system the optimal that we need to have? Should we not rethink that the next economic crisis will not be a financial one, but will be an ecological one, which will have huge repercussions on the economy? Honestly, I read the news and the newspapers. I don't see nowhere that we are discussing. Everybody say, yes, it's the time to reflect on what, right? The fact that you want to see another family member again, the fact that you might be working at home more by technology and less in the company. But for me, these are not the fundamental things we should reflect upon. Yes, this is a timely, we have a virus, okay, it came, and it will go, and there will be a vaccine. And so what we're going to do then, right? Because this remains, we are all focused on our short-term living what we have now. But these are not, for me, the fundamental things. I just wanted to come back on that part, which you said we have to reflect upon life. I don't see a lot of reflection in life, if you ask me. But you touched there on the vulnerable segment of society as well. And of course, I find it excellent, and we're doing the same in Ageas. I mean, I'm not talking about, so we're doing a lot of initiatives about the vulnerable segment of society, definitely during this crisis. But will this, and that's something I discussed before, I mean, this is good, but how to make this sustainable? I mean, once this virus is gone, I mean, everybody goes back to normal and the vulnerable segment is left behind again. Now everybody's talking about the homeless, the people who get on the poverty line, who have problems in getting the food, etc. And everybody's focused and is getting money together, etc., which is good and should happen. But we should also reflect, should we not install a more sustainable thinking that they are on our radar screen every day of the week? And honestly, there is no contradiction between making profits and having a sustainable model. I mean, people sometimes still have the feeling that thinking it's for the dreamers, the people from green parties. There is I mean, there's a lot of scientific studies and everything that you can marry sustainability and sustainable principles with shareholders' value, stakeholders' value, profit-driven elements. And this is, I believe, the main question where we want to do. I mean, you can act, you can say, okay, I mean, I'm talking about plastic, but if you don't change your behavior yourself in not buying plastic bottles anymore, well, what gives you the right of speech? I mean, so that it's a more profound, for me, discussion that should be held than only saying in today's environment people are reflecting. Honestly, I think the contrary. Honestly, I do indeed think that we are coming to the edge of the actual economic system, and that we have to think about a different way of working. However, what I see happening, and what happens in most countries, is that the supportive element of financial support that all governments are putting in place, even the European community, in supporting the economy, will drive that all countries will go in much bigger deficits. And so you will have a much higher focus on the deficits and how to finance the deficits and how to make it pay back by taxes, by all kind of things. So I believe that today, yes, there's a huge focus. How can we diminish the economic negatives of this virus? But I believe once this virus is over, there will be a higher focus even onto the deficits of all the countries and how to get it back to the normality in the coming 5-10 years. So we really risk that what was ongoing, the big change, because you had also a lot of big, I mean, CEOs of huge groups that were saying, no, it's stakeholders' value, we have to do different things. That actually we have the risk that is put in the corner for a while, and this is a big risk, yes. Well, that's the same. I mean, it's linked to the previous question. I mean, the predictions are that with all the measurements, on average, all the European countries will see their GDP go down with 8%. This is never seen before. This is huge. I mean, this will create unemployment. And again, in this risk of survival, a lot of companies will just focus on how to survive in this business. A lot of companies will have less money to spend. My credo is always, there's nothing wrong in becoming filthy rich. You should know what to do with the money, and you should do good in the world with money. So the richer a company is, the more that you can do good for society. You will have less wisdom to share, and that is, I think, indeed, as you say, it will probably make that a lot of social impact funds, they will see drying up the normal flow that goes to them. And that's something that we also have to be very attentive to, is that we're not only focused on the short-term measures, but we need to keep attention to continuing supporting long-term social impacts for society, because they all have a risk also of losing out and not having the money. And with the environment, that's a big risk. Well, I think that firstly, let me say that I think the first mails that we exchanged was already 3.5, 4 months ago. We saw it coming, and so we started preparing our company also from an IT perspective, also from what should we do, and we were actually one of amongst the few or companies in Portugal who could actually move all our employees at the shortest moment of time at home, in addition with the call centers and third parties. So first thing was safety of the employees. That was credo number one for everybody within our team. All the managers was, have the people safe. Okay, that was number one. When this was in place, I mean, you have to adapt into the new style of working, and you have to adapt. I must see that I saw a lot of projects, a lot of elements which were taking a lot of months, which were realized in a couple of weeks. So there was an agile way of doing things, because you have a kind of different structure of decision-making process, and a lot of things went much faster than normally. What you could predict already, that is after a couple of weeks, you have to take care about also the mental health of the people, because first time is a little bit exciting, we're at home, you know that we have about 456 people with children. You know, at the beginning, it's all fun to be a little bit together, but after 3 weeks, it's not always fun to get woken up at 6 o'clock with children stamping on your bed and so that's another aspect. I mean, so many people have to work in a confined area. So what we did then is, okay, HR, you're going to call every employee to ask how it's going, what can we do for you, how is it going. We have the psychologists available. So we did. We knew from the beginning that we want to also to give purpose. And Celia was heading our foundation, who is also in the call, has been putting a lot of projects in place where also our employees could find themselves to give, if they're at home or if they have some free time, to give purpose in life. I mean, indeed, in these short-term elements, we need to take care about the weak in our society, and so how to set up the projects to give food to the poor, how to set projects, I mean, to support psychologically all the people. So that was the main focus. Then, of course, also the contacts. I mean, we put a lot of elements in place of yoga sessions, gymnastic lessons. The employees made a whole movie at home, right? An internal movie at home. It was a lot of fun. And that's actually one of the points, that you need to keep this fun going on, even if you don't see each other, but you must have fun. And what the feedback was that I got from the calls that I have with so many people is that people, even they were not together, the feedback was they had never been so close with each other than ever before. They never felt such a high support of each other than when they were in the office. So they have a kind of mentality of support has been created amongst also the employees, which was a very positive effect. And now, of course, we're in a situation already for 3 weeks. We are working very hard in how to get the employees back to the office, because mentally it's heavy for a lot of people, and you must have this freedom in your head that you can go back to the office. Of course, for us, it's purely looking how to do that with safety measures, with proceedings, so that that everybody can come back to the office in a very safe way, that they feel safe, but at least they can talk with some people and that they can find each other. So, I mean, each is with stages, I would say. I tell that to everybody. It's one of the, sometimes I give this example when I'm sitting in the plane and people ask what you're doing. I'm always asking, my job is what every person between 18 and 24 would like to be. And then they look at me and say, are you in the movie sector? I said, no. Are you in this fashion? I said, no. And then they all start thinking about what could it be that everybody from 18 to 25 want to be. I said, oh, I'm in insurance. And then people look at me like, eh? And actually, I still today must say that insurance have evolved. I have known insurance as being a very boring business, honestly, right? It has moved to an area, it's one of the most sexiest business you can be in. There is not one element. I mean, if you go to healthcare, we are on the verge of each technological evolution, be it 3D printing of organs, be it from anything that is invited. Look at this COVID. I mean, we're on the front scene of anything that telemedicine, everything that we have put in place. If you go to non-life, I mean, we are on the front scene of self-driving cars, about Internet of Things in houses. I mean, we nearly are a technological, and sometimes people know inside that I'm saying we should be a technological firm that by inheritance is selling insurance. And you see it actually coming more and more. We had an offsite last with the management committee of the group. And at the end of our offsite, we said, did you know that we didn't ever discuss insurance? It was all about technology. And this is what's happening. I mean, in life, we are talking about the age, I mean, how the pyramid is moving and what can we do and what can we put in place, and also how we can take care of the elderly with technology. I mean, every element that we are looking at, it's technology. And people do not expect, or do they think insurance, boring. But honestly, I mean, I can tell you, I can bring a lot of young people who are very enthusiastic on working insurance, because people do not imagine how innovative we have to be, how we are confronted with startups. You name all the startups, I mean, they're in healthcare, it's incredible. Yeah. It's a complex question. I think everybody somehow, in certain ways, should place wake-up calls to people who are eventually not aware, because you have the risk of doing nothing. But firstly, is also the awareness of things, and that is, of course, again linked with what I started off with education. The more educated you are, the more you're aware of things. And the more you're aware you don't know anything, because the bigger the circle of knowledge is, the bigger the circumvent is of that you don't know anything. If your circle is like this, you only don't know anything, which is this. If your circle is this, you know that there's a lot you don't know. So awareness is the first thing. And I believe, are you born with it? Probably some people are born with a natural interest in knowing things. Myself, I'm interested in how ants are walking on the ground. The bees are flying. I mean, even for example, this week I challenged. I always come challenge. I said, why are people, runners in the stadia, running against the clock? Right? Why is that? Right? And so it's the fact, never accept something for granted. Never. And people in our company know when they come with a presentation, I will be on their backs with questions. Questions why? Not to criticize, but it's just to see and explore is there a third path, a fourth path, or a fifth path possible that could be more efficient, bring more to it? Have you thought about it? And I believe it's the thinking process that makes that you don't have the luxury not to do anything. I mean, today is the 8th of May, I believe. I mean, can you imagine? We would not, I mean, the 8th of May is not so known, I believe, in Portugal, but it's the end of the Second World War. Can you imagine all those people in the Second World War, if they would not have acted in a certain way. I mean, they had no luxury. They had to act for certain things, right? You cannot accept, because the opposite of not doing anything and the most dangerous part is indifference. I mean, indifference with people, I think this is the worst you can have. In the people that are indifferent, indifferent to genocides, indifferent to wars, indifferent to poor, indifference to love, indifference for beauty, indifference. I mean, and this is, then I say, this is what people, everyone should challenge all the time. You cannot accept. Let's put it differently. I mean, I will give another example. When I did the opening speech in Nova, and that's the fundamental point of it. When I did the opening speech of Nova, I mean, you can imagine the professors are sitting in the front row and the students. And I started my speech saying to all the students, never believe what your professors are telling you. Never. This is the worst mistake you can do, is believing what your professors are telling you. And why? I said, I'm going to tell you why. I can tell you that a big percentage of what the same professors told the same students 300 years ago at the same university here has now proven to be wrong. I can predict with a lot of certainty that what all these professors are telling today in 300 years' time will be proven wrong. And how do you get to that point of view is by never accepting what is for granted or a value of today. You can only get there by challenging and questioning each path, each element that is put forward. And that, I think, is the attitude that makes that you don't have a risk. You don't have a risk of doing nothing. Impossible. I always like to learn in everything. I mean, if it be honestly, yeah, be it of flowers, anthropology, history, archaeology, paintings, even heavy metal, classical music. I mean, ballet, whatever you name it, right? I mean, it's the natural curiosity in all these things. But if it's only to learn and not to do anything with it, that's a waste. And so I believe what you're saying goes hand in hand. The one is there to serve life, but life is also there to serve the knowledge. And I think both goes hand in hand. I mean, you could learn everything about different flowers and their medicinal herbs and what they do for life or how to cure. But what is better than taking young children out of nature, showing them the plants, and teaching them where does the name of a plant come from and what is it used for? And so the one part is the learning curve. The other one is you have to give the knowledge also in life to people. I mean, you know that with Ageas, we support the literacy, financial literacy in secondary schools. So we're at our second edition, exactly also for that, because we see an element that unfortunately Portugal has a very low saving rate, about 4%, which is one of the lowest of whole Europe. So there's no culture of saving. And that as an insurance company, we feel that we also have to, and that's again then going to the schools to learn, that we need to teach them what do you do with your money, because the paradigm is that parents sometimes they invest so much money in getting their children from primary school, then they are getting them to high school, then they're going to university, and then finally they go to have a master's. And during this 18 or 16 years or 17 years of investment, there has been not one course in what you have to do with your first salary. Nobody has told them what should you do with that, right? And actually, this is what it's all about. I mean, because you have all this course to what? To start working, to earn money, to do something with that money. And so we think that the earlier, again, the education goes into teaching young people what you should do with money, right, is very important. And then, of course, they question their parents because they come from school and they question themselves. But I don't know the education system enough. What I do see is that there are a lot of, and I know one big institution that in Nova, And there, I must say, I can only applaud the way they are functioning in integrating the industry, the companies, the innovation labs, the technological labs into the campus and inviting students to take part of the thinking process. And I think this is the best way. We have in our company each year a number of students from Nova who make fantastic projects. And it's a way to marry the students and also the companies, the industry together. And that's, I think, a very, very good concept in doing it while not losing anything, of course, on the standards of education. It depends how you do it. We have also within our group, in Portugal, a big risk department. And not only more than a week ago, I told Shurt, who is responsible for the department, I said, how can risk support our business? This is the attitude you should have. The attitude is not, but this is a risk. Oh, be careful. Oh, don't do this, do that. That's the wrong attitude. The attitude is, okay, these are the risks. How can we manage them? What are the measures we can take, right, to cover these risks and still do things in that area? And I believe it's again always the attitude. You can learn things in a positive way or in a negative way. How can you support even compliance? I mean, and a lot of people say, oh my God, compliance, right? We have seen in this moment that our compliance department was a very, very supportive. We had to change processes in such a quick moment of time towards the agents, towards the bank. We had to change products in such a short moment. And instead of people saying, "Ooh, but this is risky," no, we had people who were thinking along, saying, "Oh yeah, but if you do it this way, or if you do it that way." So it's not because you have a name compliance or risk that by definition you are a kind of taking colors away. On the contrary, if you have the right attitude, you can add more colors to the panoply of colors of a company. You know, I think being yourself, I mean, everybody has to be authentic. I think that people, you're asking a personal question to me probably, yeah? So I think what you see in the camera here, I mean, you see what you get what you see. I mean, there's not a lot of difference outside. I will not talk or behave differently to when I'm with others. I mean, everybody knows that. Actually, one of the biggest compliments I got from a CEO in Portugal was, "You're a very weird guy, but you're very trustworthy, and what you say, but people should listen to it." So I said, okay, that's a good definition probably. But it's challenging the whole time. I mean, honestly, I probably have an attitude of always challenging. I mean, and looking for different things and trying to find different alternatives and different ideas and think about it and you mentioned it before we started, but when people ask me what do I need to make a career, I always tell them you should read 40 books a year. And that's honestly true. I think by
what kind
reading,
of books? What kind of books?
Only novels. I only read novels.
Only novels.
I never read a professional book. I wrote a couple and I hope nobody read them, but I only read novels. And you get so much knowledge of the world, of people, and nothing in this world is strange to you because you have read about everything. You know what's happening. You know in 5 minutes, and I think this is important. In the aspect of this indifference and this challenging part. When you see an old lady want to pass the street, help her to pass the street. You're a small hero. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be a hero with a gun, or I mean, some of them that are hanging there from my son. I mean, it doesn't have to be a hero with a gun on his horseback like Zorro, who's saving. I mean, no. I mean, it's all in small details. Everybody can be a small hero. Some can be big heroes, right? But every day when you see that people, you can help somebody, you should help somebody, because in the end, it's again has to do with purpose of life. I mean, honestly, personally, I hope that when I die, the world might be a tiny little bit, a little bit better. Not. I mean, I can do it not a lot, but and this is all these elements of small heroes. Yes, if you have a little bit saved money, you can share and give some vegetables to the poor. Yes, I mean, you don't have to be poor yourself and giving everything away, but there's always something you can do and help. I mean, for example, today I was very pleased. I mean, I saw to somebody pointing me out a social brewery. You know, in Belgium, right? It's beer, right? I mean, what can I say, right? But there's a social brewery which just across the border in Holland, and actually they're working on, and they call it how to say it? How is it? Vagabond? Vagabond? Is that
Vagabundo, yeah.
The beer is called Vagabundo. And why do they call it Vagabundo? Because all the people they hire to work in that are vagabundos. Right?
Yeah.
These are all people who have no job, who don't know where to go. I mean, all kinds of people. And they made a brewery. I found this fantastic. So I got in contact 3 weeks ago with the CEO. I said, "Can you ship some beer to Belgium?" Okay, yeah, they did. It arrived today, so it's in the fridge. I will taste it tonight. And I immediately am thinking, okay, this is a social brewery. Can I put them in contact with somebody in Portugal? So we have our head of communication, Ines Simões, in Ageas. She has friends who have an importer of beers. So I'm trying to put them in contact, because if they can have supported and have more beer shipped to everywhere, you support a social brewery, which helps. Yes. So, I mean, is this big? No, not big, right? But if it helps a bit, I mean, a little, if through this they can hire 1 or 2 persons more, you did a part of it. And that's what I call small heroes. I mean, in everything we do, everybody we meet, we can always detect if you can be somewhere a small hero. Yeah, honestly, I don't think I can do a lot nothing. No, I mean, if it's not nothing, it's continuously. You know, I have been challenged by many people. I'm already an old guy now. Throughout my whole career, you should try yoga. You should try mindfulness. You should try whatever, right? I have tried everything. I mean, I went on 10 days yoga. I just cannot calm this down, right? And I think this is also for me my kind of yoga. They should come with examples. I think that the best is to set the example. You have to walk the talk. I mean, put the money where your mouth is, right? Teaching is a strange word, right? I'm going to teach you to be a small hero, but if the teacher, him or herself, could, by the way of acting, show what small heroes means, then you could talk about it in the classroom, or you could ask the classroom, hey, I mean, when you see an old lady standing in the street, would you help her? Or come with very practical, small little things. And that can be turned into a classroom, yes, but not from a theoretical point of view. You have a unique position, honestly. I mean, I love to work in Portugal. I love the Portuguese people. They have, from nature, honestly, a very gentle character, which is unique. I'm not flattering because I'm now mostly talking to a Portuguese audience, but people know that in the company I'm talking in this way.
Yeah.
You're just by nature a gentle population. You like to help people, and when the fires are going in Pedrogal, the whole country sticks together to help the people. When you have these COVIDs, I mean, the whole country immediately sticks together to help people. So in that sense, I admire how the country and the people are functioning. Um, the the people come on holiday for Portugal for a reason, because you have the warmth, etc., etc. If there's one, but you cannot have it all. I mean, if there's one element then where we marry quite well together, me coming from the north, those cold people from the north with discipline and timely things. Well, I think the marriage is good. I recall the first day I came from Mexico, because I've been in Mexico before. The first day I came in Portugal, they said, "Ah, but Stevie, we are in Portugal." Hey, somebody's in Portugal. Okay, Portuguese. And I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" Because I've been in so many countries. They said, "Yeah, but you know, if you have a meeting at 9, maybe you can start at 9:15." I said, "Okay, fine." So I had my first meeting at 9, and 2 minutes past 9, I closed the door with a key.
Really?
Yes. I must say, it's the only meeting where people were late. The next meeting, right? Everybody's on time. So if the question is what could we do better, and I think that most Portuguese will recognize, I know that we don't like to be criticized, right? But I think intrinsically, you know where the weaknesses are. Somewhere in the Portuguese society is this commitment of delivery, right? You have this Portuguese saying, I cannot know it, but I know there's a saying, to push the things ahead with the belly, right? I mean,
empurrar com a barriga.
Well, you see, I mean, you even have specific, specific wordings to do that, right? And so I'm not saying something which is so strange to everybody here on who is listening here. I mean, but if that's the point, that's where people could focus more. The first thing is the basic. I believe, if I understand the question correctly, it's the basic principles of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the basic principle of money. You have to understand why this is so important, and maybe the background is also important. First, we went back to Braekeveldt, the parties and the hard working on the field. I have been educated like my parents were educated. And my parents, like me, always heard two things. In life, there's only two things important: working and saving. I have been educating with my parents repeating this over and over and over again. Educating our three children, I have raised them with telling them there are only two things important in life. It's working and saving. And they have been hearing this over, and so it is also related with education at home. And I think, I don't know how much people talk about money to their children or how you have to manage the money. I can tell you that here, from small, the kids are asking a lot: what should I do with money? What should I do this? What should I do that? How much should I save? How much should I? So this is a very open discussion, transparent, because they know this is important, because they might be living until 100 years and the government will have no money left. So they will know they need to foresee enough money for them to get old. So this is something I believe that also within the families should be, maybe some people will start laughing, should we talk about money now? But it should be a very educational part of the parents for their children. And I believe that a lot of education comes from there. And of course, also in the schools, they should tell what is money about? I mean, what should you do with it? Well, it's because you work hard and you save a lot that you can have a lot of fun. Honestly,
Okay.
it's linked. No, it's linked because you know what you're doing. I mean, my daughter, she wanted to go to Japan. I said, yeah, but I will not be able to save this percentage now of my salary because I'm going to Japan. I said, you should go to Japan. It opens your horizons. You're young. The question, the fact that you asked that question shows that you're aware about the fact that you have to save, and that you of course, I said, you're young, you should enjoy it, but you are aware. You're not spending like this. You're aware of it, and so that's okay. Ooh, a good book. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to tell you what I'm reading now. Okay, it's a book written, but probably a lot of you have read it already, right? It's a novel written by a German author, and it is about the life of, and now I have to look because of course, the name is so long that I always forget it. But I will get it very quickly. It's about Amadeu Inácio de Almeida Prado.
Okay, Amadeu?
Yes, Amadeu Inácio de Almeida Prado.
De Almeida Prado, yeah.
He died in 1975. It's a novel, but the guy existed, and he was actually he was the doctor who saved the butcher of Lisbon during the times of Salazar. And it's actually quite. I mean, it's not a book for everybody, but it goes back to the Salazar's times and that doctor who saved that guy and the consequences of his life. It's I read it it's normally in German, but I have the book in English. It's The Night Train to Lisbon. A lot of people maybe have read it already. I like it. But there's so. I mean, I read so much. There's so many books that.
That they inspire you.
Yeah,
and
yeah. I would not explain anything. I would go biking with him. I would go play soccer with him. I would show him why the ants are walking where they walk. I would explain him why bees are flying as they flee. I would try to, honestly, I would try to increase his natural curiosity to the maximum of everything, that he himself can become an inspiring leader, because I believe this is what matters. It's not about books. It's not about this is an inspiring leader, right? But trying to each one on its own show by doing. Even this week, I sent a poem. I think it's Mark Eisman to my son. Fantastic poem. An American writer who wrote a poem and who died in 1945. Fantastic poem with so much values in it. I sent it to him. I mean, so I'm not explaining him what you should do, but by sending this poem to him, which is so good, so inspirational, so, I mean, fantastic in how humble you have to be in life. I hope that I give him messages saying, this is how you should be, and not by giving all these kind of theories. I wouldn't do that. I would just take your son on my knee. You know, it did me think. I mean, not long ago, there was a small girl who didn't. I mean, the parents were complaining to me that she refused to eat vegetables, and it's about stories. It's about everything is about stories, right? And I told her that I took her on my knee and I said, you know, I have a cousin. Oh, she said, yes, I said, I have a cousin. And you know what my cousin has? He has huge ears. And she was looking at me like, how is this possible? Yes, I said, you know, this happens when you don't eat vegetables, you know, I mean, your ears. And she asked, can I have a picture from him? I said, yes, I will send you a picture, but I don't have it with me. But I said, if you want to avoid, I mean, shall we try to get our ears as they are and eat vegetables? And so the parents, even when they were sitting, I was on the corner alone with that little girl, and we were eating raw vegetables. See, I mean, I think this is what I mean.
Yeah,
I would not say anything. I would go by stories, by knights and princesses, and by all these kind of things.
Wow, thank you. Great answer. Well, I think it's time to thank you to end this conversation. Thank you very much, Stephen. It was great, very inspiring, as I would expect. But thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy man, but I want to end this talk with an inspiring idea that comes from Steve, and I will quote him. Let small heroes raise for the occasion so that big heroes can be seen. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for inspiring us all to become greater human beings. And we wish you well and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you for inviting me. And thanks for all for keeping up and listening to me even.
Thank you all for coming. See you on our next talk, which is next Friday with João Pedro Tavares. He was the president of Junior Achievement for many, many years. And he is now the president of the strategic board. So please come if you can. We will publish it in our networks. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye, Stephen.
Bye-bye.